I pulled my husband's phone out from under the diaper bag while our newborn screamed hard enough to turn purple, and a fresh text lit up the screen, room 612. Don't knock. Just swipe. The baby's will bounced off the nursery walls like an alarm meant for me alone, and I froze with that glowing message burning into my palm. A second later the front door lock clicked, his key in the deadbolt, so I shoved the phone back like it was hot and scooped our son up with one hand, bottle with the other. He walked in smelling like cold air and mint gum, eyes already on the clock, not on the baby. Sorry, he said too fast, like he'd practiced it in the car. Meeting ran late. Our son hiccuped mid-scream, tiny fists shaking beside his face. My husband flinched like the sound physically hurt him, and then he did the thing he'd been doing for weeks, hovering 2 feet away, hands half raised, like he was about to touch a hot stove. You want to hold him? I asked, voice flat, rocking back and forth without thinking. He stared at the baby's head like it was something fragile and dangerous. I've got to shower, he said, already backing down the hallway. I stink. The shower roared to life, drowning out the baby's cries, and the timing hit me like a shove. The moment he got home, he made sure there was a wall of noise between him and us. I settled our son against my shoulder and kept patting until his screams melted into wet little grunts. My arms ached in that deep, buzzing way they did now, like my bones had learned a new kind of fatigue. When the baby finally latched onto the bottle, gulping like he'd never be full again, I stared at the bathroom door and replayed the text word for word. Room 612. Don't knock. Just swipe. Swipe what? A keycard. Hotels used keycards. My stomach did that slow drop, but my brain tried to rescue me anyway, throwing out stupid explanations like coupons and parking garages. Except the text hadn't been from a number saved as anything normal. It was saved as E. One letter. Like whoever he was, she didn't need a full name. Like she lived in his pocket. The water shut off. I forced my face into something neutral, because the moment he walked out and saw anything on me, anger, fear, suspicion, he would turn it into postpartum hormones and I would start doubting my own eyes. He came out in sweatpants, towel around his neck, hair damp, and he didn't ask how I was doing. He didn't ask if the baby had eaten. He went straight to the kitchen and opened the fridge with a sigh like the light inside had personally offended him. What's for dinner? He asked. I stared at him. I stared at the man I'd watched cry when we saw the first ultrasound, the man who'd said, "We're going to be a family," like it was a promise. Our son made a soft clicking sound on the bottle nipple, eyelids fluttering. My husband glanced over once, quick, like checking the weather, then looked away. There's pasta, I said. He rummaged with too much force, clanking containers like he was punishing the fridge for being full of our life. God, I'm starving, he muttered, and then, quieter, I can't do this tonight. Not even I can't do this like life. Tonight. I watched him eat standing up, fork stabbing too fast, eyes flicking to his phone every time it buzzed. He kept it face down on the counter like a secret. The baby finished the bottle and dozed off, milk-drunk and calm, mouth slightly open. I carried him to the bassinet and lowered him in with the kind of care you use for glass. The floor creaked under my weight, and I held my breath, because if he woke up, my husband would tense, I would resent him, the baby would scream, and the whole fragile calm would shatter again. When I turned back, my husband was already sliding his phone into his pocket. He didn't even pretend not to. You going somewhere? I asked. He stopped like I'd caught him with his hand in a cookie jar, then pasted on a tired smile. Just, quick run. I forgot diapers. And he flicked his eyes around, searching for a reason, coffee pods. We have diapers, I said, too quickly. His smile tightened. Well, not the right size. Our son was literally wearing the right size. My husband's gaze darted toward the bassinet like he expected the baby to argue. He swallowed and nodded toward the door. I'll be back. Bring your wallet, I said, because the petty part of me wanted to make him carry something heavy. He patted his pocket like he already had it and left anyway. The door shut. The apartment got so quiet I could hear the bassinet's soft little squeak as the baby shifted. My body moved before my morals could catch up. I went to the kitchen, heart thudding, and opened the drawer where we threw random stuff, take-out menus, old mail, spare keys. His spare keys were there. His wallet wasn't. So the diapers excuse was a lie, but it was a lazy lie, and that almost hurt worse. Like he didn't even think he needed to try with me anymore. My hand shook as I wiped down the counter, like cleaning could erase what I'd seen. Then his laptop on the table chimed, one bright, cheerful ding that sounded obscene in the dark. A calendar reminder popped up on the screen. 6:30 p.m., call with Lucas, Q4 review. Lucas was his boss. It was 9:12. No meeting ran late. No call happened. There was just him, leaving, phone in pocket, eyes on the door like the hallway was oxygen. I sank into the chair, palms pressed flat on the tabletop, and tried to make sense of a man who couldn't look at his own son for more than a second. The bassinet creaked again. I stood instantly, because that's what I did now, respond, fix, soothe, before anything could become a problem. Our son blinked up at me, confused, lips puckering like he was searching for comfort in the air. I hovered over him and whispered, "Hey, hey, I've got you," and felt a stab of rage so sharp it almost made me dizzy. Because I did have him. I always had him. My husband seemed like he was running from him. My phone buzzed in my back pocket, and I jerked like a teenager caught doing something wrong. It was my husband. Him, stores packed. Might be a bit packed. At 9:12. For diapers we didn't need. I didn't answer. I didn't type. I just stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then I did the one thing I'd promised myself I'd never do. I opened our shared bank app. 2 days ago, there was a charge I hadn't noticed because I'd been too busy counting ounces of milk and sleep cycles. Harborview Hotel, $146.38. My throat went dry. We didn't do hotels. We barely did showers. I tapped it, hoping for some stupid explanation. Hoping it was a conference room deposit or a mistake or some weird corporate thing. But the name sat there in clean black letters like a confession. Harborview Hotel, room 612. Swipe. I listened to the baby's breathing like it was the only proof my life was still real. Another buzz. Him, can you not lock the chain? Forgot my key. He never forgot his key. He never forgot anything that mattered to him. My mind flashed to the way he'd slid his phone away. To the one-letter contact. To the hotel charge. To how he flinched when our son cried, like the sound was a threat. I picked up the baby monitor receiver, habit, even though the bassinet was right there, and set it on the counter like I was gearing up for war. Then I pulled the diaper bag off the hook by the door. The same bag I'd hidden his phone under earlier. Inside, I felt around until my fingers touched something stiff and smooth. Plastic. I pulled it out, and the overhead light caught the black stripe. A hotel keycard. Not ours. Not from some trip we'd taken, because we hadn't traveled since I was 7 months pregnant and swollen like a balloon. This card was clean and new, and written on it, in tiny printed font, was the name I'd seen on the charge. Harborview Hotel. My hands went numb. I should have cried. I should have screamed. I should have confronted him the second he walked back through the door. Instead, my whole body went cold and clear, like something inside me had turned into steel. Because the thing that kept flashing in my head wasn't just who he was meeting. It was why. Why would a man who couldn't hold his own baby pay for a hotel room? I heard the elevator cables hum through the wall, our building's quiet mechanical heartbeat, then the distant ding of doors opening. Footsteps approached our hallway. I slid the keycard into my pocket and went to the peephole. My husband stood outside our door, shoulders hunched, staring at his phone like he was reading something that made him sick. He looked up once, fast, and his eyes flicked down the hallway, left, right, like he was making sure nobody saw him. Then he raised his hand and knocked. Soft, careful, like he was afraid to wake the baby, or like he was afraid of waking me. I stepped back from the door, keycard burning in my pocket, and looked at the bassinet where our newborn slept, tiny chest rising and falling, totally unaware. My husband knocked again, a little harder. I didn't move. I just stood there in the dark, palm pressed to the plastic in my pocket, and watched the peephole shadow shift as he leaned closer. The third knock came with a whisper I could barely hear through the door. Please. And for the first time in weeks, he sounded like he was the one about to break. I didn't open the door on the third knock. I opened it on the fourth, because our baby stirred, and I wasn't about to let my husband's panic turn into crying. He slipped inside like a thief returning to the scene, eyes skipping over me straight to the bassinet, then away again. His breath smelled like mint and cold air and something else, like hotel lobby perfume that clings to fabric. Don't wake him, he whispered, even though he'd been the one knocking. I watched his hands. They were shaking. Not tired dad shaking, guilty shaking. He kept his phone in his fist like a lifeline. You said you forgot your key, I said. He blinked, then nodded too fast. Yeah. Sorry. I was rushing. Rushing where? The words came out calm, which scared me more than if I'd screamed. He ran a hand through his damp hair like he could wipe the night off himself. Store was insane. Everyone's out of diapers. I went to 2 places. He didn't put any bags down, because there were no bags. His gaze flicked to my pocket, my right pocket, like he knew exactly where the keycard was even though he'd never seen me put it there. Then his eyes jumped up to my face, and he forced a smile so thin it barely existed. Can we not do this right now? He whispered. Do what? Talk. Breathe. Exist. I stepped back into the kitchen so the bassinet stayed between us and our son stayed asleep. My husband followed, but he didn't come close. He hovered in the doorway like he was waiting for permission to enter his own life. I opened the freezer and pulled out an ice pack just so my hands had something to do. The plastic crinkled loud in the quiet, and he flinched again. "Why are you scared of him?" I asked. His eyes snapped to mine. "What?" "The baby," I said. "Why do you act like he's a bomb?" He laughed once, sharp and fake. "I'm not scared. You're terrified," I corrected, and my voice didn't shake. "You won't hold him. You won't feed him. You won't sit with him. You don't even look at him." His jaw tightened. "I'm just tired." "I'm tired," I said. "I'm bleeding. I'm leaking. I haven't slept more than 2 hours in a row in a month. And I still hold him." He opened his mouth, then closed it. His eyes dropped to the floor like he was counting ways out. "I'm doing my best," he murmured. His best had a hotel charge attached to it. I pulled my phone from the counter slowly, watching his face. He stiffened instantly, like the phone was a weapon. "That meeting you said ran late?" I said. "It didn't." He swallowed. "What are you talking about?" "Your calendar popped up," I said. "Lucas. Q4 review. 2 days ago. Not tonight." For half a second, pure panic flashed across his face, raw and unguarded. Then the mask slammed back on. "Okay," he said, forcing calm. "So I mixed up the day. I've been all over the place." "All over the place," I repeated. His phone buzzed in his hand. He flipped it so fast I caught the screen glow on his knuckles. I didn't see the message. I saw his reaction to it, his pupils widening, his throat working like he was swallowing something sharp. "Who's he?" I asked, and I didn't blink. He went still. So still it was almost comical, like someone hit pause. "I don't know what you mean." "You do," I said. "Room 612. Don't knock. Just swipe." His face drained so fast it looked like someone turned off the lights behind his skin. His lips parted, and for a second he couldn't find air. Then he did the thing I'd expected. He tried to make me the crazy one. "You went through my phone?" he whispered, disgusted. "Jesus. That's messed up." I stared at him. The baby was screaming. "Your phone was under the diaper bag." It lit up. He shook his head slowly, like I was the problem. "You're paranoid." "No," I said. "You're sloppy." That hit him. His shoulders jerked like I'd slapped him. He looked toward the nursery, like he was checking if the baby could hear us, then back to me, voice dropping. "It's not what you think." I laughed. It came out dry, ugly. "Then tell me what it is." He opened his mouth and nothing came out. So I did it for him. "Harborview Hotel," I said, watching his eyes. $146.38. His eyes squeezed shut like pain. When he opened them again, they were angry. "You checked our bank?" he snapped, louder than he meant to. Our baby made a soft noise in the bassinet, like a warning. My husband froze, then lowered his voice again, shaking. "You're spiraling," he hissed. "You've been, since the birth, you've been." "Don't," I cut in. He ignored it, desperate now. "You're not yourself." I stepped closer, slow and controlled, until I was close enough to see the tiny line of sweat above his lip. "Say her name," I said. "I'm not cheating," he blurted, too fast. I didn't ask if he was. That told me everything. His gaze flicked to my pocket again. I slid my hand in and pulled out the keycard. The moment he saw it, his face did something I'd never seen on him before, pure horror, like he'd watched a trap snap shut around his ankle. He reached for it without thinking. I pulled it back. "Where did you get this?" I asked. He stared at the card like it was alive. He swallowed hard. It's from work." I tilted my head. "Your job gives you hotel keycards?" He looked like he might throw up. Then he did another thing. He tried to grab my wrist. His fingers closed around me, not hard, but urgent. "Stop," he whispered. "Please. Not tonight." I yanked my arm free, and the ice pack hit the floor with a dull slap. Our baby startled, sucking in a breath like he might cry. My husband's face snapped toward the bassinet, panic flooding him again. He backed away from it instinctively. That was the moment it clicked in my head, sharp and awful. He wasn't just cheating because he wanted sex. He was cheating because he wanted silence. A room where nobody cried. A place where no tiny human needed him. "You go there when he screams," I said quietly. My husband stared at me like I'd read his diary out loud. "That's not," he started. "You do," I said, voice still calm. "When it gets bad. When he won't settle. When you can't handle it. You leave and you go to a room where you can shut the door and pretend you don't have a son." His mouth opened, then closed. He didn't deny it fast enough. He dragged his hands down his face. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand," I said, and my chest felt hollow. "You're escaping." He made a choking sound like a laugh. "You think I'm escaping? I'm drowning." "Then why am I the only one holding him?" I said. His eyes flashed, anger mixed with shame. He pointed at the bassinet like it was evidence. "Because every time he cries, he stopped, jaw clenched so tight it trembled. I can't. I can't make it stop. I watched him, and for one split second, I saw it, the fear. Not fear of me, fear of being needed. Who is he? I asked again, softer this time, like I was pulling a thread. He shook his head violently. It's not, she's not. He cut himself off, and that she hung in the air like smoke. I stepped back, keeping my voice low so our baby stayed asleep. Is she the one in the room? His eyes went wet, but he blinked it away like tears were another failure. I didn't, he whispered. I didn't plan. The phone buzzed again. He looked at it like it was calling him home. I reached out before I even decided to, palm open. Give it to me. He hesitated, one heartbeat too long, then shoved it in his pocket and backed toward the hallway. No, he said, voice cracking. I can't, if I see what? I whispered. He shook his head, frantic. Please. I'll explain. Just, tomorrow. I'll tell you everything tomorrow. Tomorrow. The word sounded like a lie men use when they're buying time to erase evidence. I stepped toward him, and he flinched like I might hit him. I didn't. I just lifted the keycard and held it between two fingers. I'm going to Harborview, I said. His face snapped up. No. I stared at him. Yes. He took a step forward, then stopped himself, breathing hard. Don't do this, he pleaded, voice suddenly small. You can't bring that here. Bring that here. Not don't go. Not you're wrong. Not it's innocent. Just, don't bring the truth into our home. I turned and looked at the bassinet. Our baby slept on, mouth slightly open, one tiny hand curled like he was holding on to a dream. I looked back at my husband. He looked like a man begging to stay hidden. You already brought it here, I whispered. And then I heard it, soft, almost nothing, the vibration of his phone again. But this time, it wasn't a text. It was a call. The screen glow leaked through the fabric of his pocket, lighting up his hip. And even without seeing the name, I knew who it was. Because my husband's whole body leaned toward that call like it was the only place he felt safe. The phone kept vibrating in his pocket, steady and impatient, and my husband stood there like a man pinned between two fires. He didn't answer it. He also didn't silence it. That told me everything. Whoever was calling had power, and he was terrified of both saying yes and saying no. Pick up, I whispered. His eyes snapped to mine, pleading. Don't. The baby shifted in the bassinet, a tiny squeak of mattress. My husband flinched so hard he nearly jumped. The phone stopped. For 3 seconds, the apartment was quiet enough that I could hear my own pulse in my ears. Then a new buzz. A text this time. He didn't move, but his gaze dropped to his pocket like a reflex he hated. I stepped closer. Let me see it. He shook his head, jaw clenched. You're not. The text buzzed again, like it was getting impatient with our marriage. My husband exhaled through his nose, sharp and angry, and finally pulled the phone out. Not to give it to me. To read it himself and decide what lie to hand me. His thumb hovered, then tapped. The screen lit his face from below and I watched every micro-expression race across him. Panic, relief, shame, then something worse. Longing. He swallowed and locked the screen fast, like snapping a book shut on a dirty page. Who, I said, slow, is she? He shut his eyes. Stop calling her that. So she is a she, I said. His shoulders sagged, the fight leaking out of him. It's not like that. I laughed again, but it came out softer, tired. Then show me. He held the phone tighter. I can't. You won't, I corrected. He looked up, and his eyes were wet now, real this time. If you see it, it's over. My chest tightened. So it is over. He flinched like I'd hit him with a chair. No, please, his voice cracked. I didn't mean. A thin, brittle cry rose from the bassinet. Not a full scream yet. A warning. I moved instantly, scooping our son up and pressing him to my shoulder. He rooted against my collarbone, hungry or just desperate for comfort. My husband backed away from us like the baby's face was a spotlight. There, I said, rocking. That's what you do. He rubbed his hands together, frantic. I can't stand the crying. I can't either, I said. But I don't get to leave. His face twisted. You think I don't know that? I rocked harder, faster, the way my body had learned to do without my brain. The baby calmed a little, breath hitching. My husband's eyes stayed on the floor. He spoke like he was confessing to a priest. When he cries, I feel rage. The word landed like a glass breaking. He kept going, voice shaking. Not at you. Not at him, he swallowed. But it's like something inside me. It wants to run. Or smash something. And I hate myself for it. I stared at him, frozen, my son warm against my chest. This wasn't the story I'd expected. This was worse, because it sounded real. So you go to a hotel, I said. He nodded once, miserable. The first time, I just drove. I ended up there. I sat in the car and I didn't come in. But you did, I said. His mouth tightened. Later, when I couldn't breathe at home, I waited. Silence is a weapon if you don't waste it. He finally whispered. It was quiet. My hands clenched on the baby's back. Quiet. That's what he paid for. And I asked. He stared at the wall like he couldn't look at the answer. It's Elise. A name. Finally. Who is Elise? I said. He swallowed hard. She works at the hotel. My stomach twisted. Front desk. He nodded. So it wasn't just one room. It was access. She gives you keycards, I said. He didn't deny it. I rocked the baby, feeling heat rise behind my eyes that never became tears. Tears were a luxury. I didn't have time. You walk in, I said, voice low. You swipe. You don't knock. Because she makes sure it's empty. My husband's shoulders shook once. Yes. And you pay her? I asked. His face snapped up, offended and desperate at the same time. No. Sometimes I tip, but. You tip her, I repeated, tasting how disgusting that sounded. He looked like he wanted to crawl out of his skin. It wasn't about sex. I stared at him until he looked away. He whispered, not at first. There it was. Not at first. My grip on the baby tightened, then loosened as I forced myself not to squeeze too hard. Our son made a small sound, and I kissed his head automatically. How long? I said. My husband swallowed. After he was born, like, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I was still bleeding 2 weeks postpartum. I was still learning how to sit without pain. And the charge? I asked. $146.38. That's not sitting in a parking lot. He looked down. I got a room. And Elise, I said, came with it. He shook his head quickly. No, she didn't come with it. He sounded frantic, like labels mattered more than betrayal. She listened. My laugh was silent this time, just air. She listened. He nodded, eyes bright with shame. I told her I couldn't do it, that I felt like a monster. And she said, his voice broke. She said I wasn't. My stomach turned because I knew what that kind of comfort costs. She made you feel like a good man, I said, while you left me alone with your son. He flinched, and his eyes flicked to the baby like the word sunburned. I didn't touch her, he blurted, too loud, then lowered his voice instantly. Not for a while, I swear. My chest felt tight, like I was breathing through wet cloth. Until when? He stared at his hands. Then he whispered, last week. The room went distant. The bassinet. The kitchen. The fridge hum. Everything slid away. Last week. That meant while I was heating bottles at 3 a.m., he was somewhere else being told he wasn't a monster. What happened? I asked, and my voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. He swallowed. She hugged me. I blinked once. And then? I said. His eyes shut. She kissed me. And then? I said again, because I wasn't letting him hide in vagueness. His throat bobbed. I didn't stop it. The baby squirmed, starting to fuss again, sensing the tension like animals do. I bounced him gently, but my whole body felt like stone. My husband stepped toward me, hands out like he could fix this by touching it. Please, he whispered. I didn't want to be a dad like my father. I froze. His father. The man who'd left when my husband was 5. The story he'd told me like a wound. So you chose to be him, I said. He flinched like the words cut. No, he whispered. I chose to breathe. I stared at him, and something cold slid into place inside me. His affair wasn't romance. It wasn't passion. It was a panic room, and he'd built it with another woman's hands. My son let out a louder cry, face reddening, lips trembling. My husband jerked back again, automatic. I watched him recoil from his own child and suddenly understood the real stake. This wasn't just about cheating. This was about whether my son would grow up watching a man run every time life got loud. My husband's phone buzzed again. He looked down at it, and his face changed, fear, then urgency. I have to, he started. You have to what? I said, voice deadly calm. Answer her? He swallowed. She said she's in trouble. In trouble, I repeated. His eyes snapped to mine, begging me to understand a situation I hadn't agreed to be in. She thinks she might be pregnant. The baby screamed, full and sharp, and my husband's face crumpled like the sound had broken him in two. Mark? What the hell, why aren't you? This is his wife, I said. On speaker, Elise's breath hitched like a sob she swallowed. Oh my God. My husband lunged for the phone, but he stopped halfway when our baby screamed again, like the sound yanked him back by the spine. Elise, I said, keeping my voice level. Harborview. Room 612. Swipe. How long have you been doing this? Silence. Then, in a thin voice, I didn't know you'd, I thought. You thought what? I cut in. That a newborn means a man stops being married? My husband whispered, please, stop. I ignored him. You said you might be pregnant. A sharp inhale. I'm late. I'm freaking out. You're freaking out, I repeated, looking straight at my husband. While his baby is 2 feet from you. Elisa's voice cracked. He told me it was bad at home. It is, I said. Because he leaves. My husband finally snapped. Give me that. He grabbed for the phone, fingers closing on my wrist this time, harder, desperate. The pressure made my skin sting. I didn't pull away. I turned my wrist so the speaker still faced him. Elise, I said, tell me the truth. Did you sleep with my husband? My husband froze. Elise whispered, yes. One small word, and the kitchen felt like it lost oxygen. My husband shook his head wildly, like he could shake the sound out of existence. It was a mistake. I watched him, and in that moment I didn't see a husband. I saw a man who chose quiet over responsibility, comfort over character. Elise, I said, calm and cold, are you actually pregnant, or is that how you keep him answering? Her breath came fast. I don't know. I haven't tested. I didn't know what else to do. I stared at my husband. You built a panic room and invited someone else inside it. He whispered, I was trying to survive. And I wasn't? I said. Our baby cried harder, face turning red again, tiny body tense with need. I bounced him, kissed his forehead, felt him tremble against me. My husband stood there useless, eyes darting between the phone and the baby like both were emergencies he couldn't handle. Elise, I said, don't call this number again. Her voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm not the one you should be talking to, I said, and ended the call. The silence after was brutal. My husband's eyes were wide, wet, ruined. You just destroyed everything. I laughed once, quiet and sharp. No. I caught you holding the match. He stepped toward me, hands out. I'll fix it. I'll quit going there. Stop, I said. He froze. I looked at him over our son's tiny head, and the truth landed cleanly. I didn't feel safe. Not with my heart. Not with my baby. You're not sleeping here tonight, I said. His mouth dropped open. Where am I supposed to go? I nodded toward the keycard still on the counter, black stripe glinting under the kitchen light. Swipe. He flinched like the word hurt. I can't. You can, I said. It's what you've been doing. The baby's cries finally broke into hiccups again, exhausted. I held him tighter, feeling his warmth steady me. My husband stood there for a long second, shaking, like he might argue, like he might beg, like he might finally pick up his son and prove me wrong. He didn't. He grabbed his jacket from the chair, eyes avoiding the bassinet, avoiding me, avoiding the life he'd helped make. At the door, he paused with his hand on the knob. I'm not my father, he whispered, like a prayer. I didn't answer. The door shut. And the only thing left in the apartment was the soft, uneven sound of my baby breathing, and the hotel keycard on the counter, catching the light like a tiny, silent blade.